Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into the fascinating past, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and tell me where and when you're watching this. Now imagine with me, you're transported not just back in time, but to the very dawn of civilization itself. You stand in the Fertile Crescent over 4,000 years ago, in the land of ancient Mesopotamia, Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, Assyria. Here, in the world's first cities, you feel the soft, wet clay beneath your fingers, still cool from the river, as a reed stylus, sharp and thin, bites into its surface. This is where writing was born, where laws were first codified, and where society began to organize in ways that would shape everything to come. Yet amidst the grandeur of ziggurats and the bustling markets, you'd stumble upon occupations that would utterly shock your modern sensibilities. Jobs that seem bizarre, even disgusting, to you today were, in fact, absolutely vital, highly respected, and deeply embedded in the fabric of this ancient world. Take, for instance, the fuller. As you approach their workshop, a pungent, acrid odor stings your nostrils, an unmistakable scent of ammonia. Archaeological evidence shows these workshops often featured large, sunken vats, and you watch, perhaps with a grimace, as workers vigorously stomp on mounds of raw wool and linen. What are they using to clean? Not soap, but human urine and animal feces. Revolting to you, no doubt. But for them, urine's powerful ammonia was the most effective detergent available in an age without modern chemicals. Cuneiform records document fullers as essential workers, often earning substantial wages, far exceeding basic laborers. They weren't outcasts, they were skilled professionals, providing a fundamental service, clean textiles for the burgeoning population. Then turn your gaze to the sprawling temple complexes, centers of immense power and spiritual life. Here you might encounter the Gala priest. These were biological males, castrated, dedicated to the worship of the goddess Inanna, a deity often associated with powerful, even fluid, expressions of gender and divinity. You hear their voices, perhaps higher pitched, speaking in a special feminine dialect, their movements graceful as they perform sacred music and intricate rituals. Temple archives list these gender-fluid religious specialists as absolutely crucial to the temple's operations, embodying a complex Mesopotamian understanding of gender and divinity. Their training began in childhood, mastering not just music and ritual, but also this unique linguistic style, securing them a respected place within the religious hierarchy. You begin to understand that normal work is a concept entirely sculpted by cultural context and practical necessity. What appears strange or even grotesque to you was, to them, simply the most logical and effective way to run a civilization. These weren't desperate souls doing terrible jobs, they were essential cogs in the magnificent, intricate machinery of the ancient world. They remind you that ingenuity, born of necessity, can thrive in the most unexpected and unfamiliar forms. You feel the oppressive silence of the royal court, a palpable tension as the king's gaze, heavy with expectation, settles upon a figure before him. This is the Sha'ilu, the dream interpreter. You watch as this official government advisor listens intently to the monarch's recounted visions of the night. Here, dreams weren't mere subconscious ramblings. They were messages from the gods, omens that could sway the fate of entire kingdoms. Kings would never commit to major decisions, be it a military campaign, a new construction, or a diplomatic treaty, without first consulting these experts. Cuneiform records document the official status of dream interpreters, and archaeological finds include detailed dream catalogues, ancient manuals meticulously listing symbols and their meanings, providing a structured framework for political intelligence. This wasn't superstition to them, it was statecraft, demanding intense study and a sharp mind. As you step away from the palace's hushed chambers, you're drawn by the convivial chatter and the warm, yeasty aroma emanating from a bustling tavern. Here, the beer goddess priestess holds sway. You see women, strong and capable, tending massive brewing vats. Beer was not merely a drink, it was a staple, often safer to consume than water, and deeply integrated into daily life and religious rituals. Women overwhelmingly dominated this vital profession, honoured by Ninkasi, the patron deity of brewing. Hammurabi's laws regulated the beer trade with astonishing detail, outlining prices and ensuring quality. The penalty for watering down beer could even be death, showcasing its immense economic and social importance. Archaeological sites frequently uncover brewery equipment within temple precincts and domestic settings, confirming its ubiquity. But life, even in Mesopotamia, was marked by sorrow. You hear a piercing, ritualistic wail, a sound of profound grief. You are witnessing the work of the Gala, the lamentation priest. Hired by families of means, these professional mourners, both male and female, performed elaborate rituals of mourning, their voices raised in specific songs, their bodies moving in prescribed gestures for different types of death. Cuneiform tablets list payment rates for these specialists, revealing that proper funerary rites, complete with professional wailing, were a sign of respect and status, demanding skilled practitioners who had trained for years in these intricate traditions. What seemed so peculiar to your modern eye was simply functional, valued expertise in ancient Mesopotamia. These weren't desperate souls performing odd jobs. They were highly compensated, respected professionals providing indispensable services that stabilized society, guided leaders, and honored the dead. They remind you that the definition of work and its worth is always a product of its time and place, shifting like the desert sands. You feel the chill of stone beneath your fingers as you step into a chamber where the air is thick, not just with dust, but with a palpable sense of anticipation and a faint, metallic tang. Before you, a figure, focused and unblinking, pores over a freshly sacrificed sheep. This is a baru, a diviner, whose job it is to unravel the future from the intricate patterns within an animal's liver. You observe the precise movements of their hand, tracing the lines, the folds, the subtle discolorations on the organ. This isn't random superstition, it's a profound, complex system. On nearby clay tablets, archaeological evidence reveals meticulously catalogued manuals, volumes detailing every possible blemish, abnormality, or anatomical variation of a liver and what each signified. You see the baru comparing the liver before them to these ancient texts, connecting present anomalies to future omens. Kings would not embark on a military campaign, arrange a royal marriage, or even lay the foundation for a new city without first consulting these experts. Their pronouncements carried immense weight, shaping state policy and the lives of countless individuals. The training to become a baru was rigorous, demanding years of apprenticeship, a detailed understanding of anatomy, as it was perceived then, and a mastery of a vast, intricate library of omen literature. They were not charlatans, but highly respected, high-status advisors whose expertise was considered essential for navigating a world believed to be constantly influenced by divine will. From this intense, intellectual engagement with the future, your senses are then assaulted by something else entirely, a piercing, sustained wail that echoes through the narrow, sun-baked streets. You are drawn to a modest home, the scent of burning incense heavy in the air, mixing with the sharp, almost acrid taste of human grief. Here you witness the Gala, the lamentation priest. They are figures, some men, some women, clad in somber garments, their faces contorted in what appears to be profound sorrow, yet their movements are strangely precise, almost choreographed. These are professional mourners, hired by families to ensure the deceased received a proper farewell. You see them performing elaborate, ritualized wailing, their voices rising and falling in specific songs, their bodies moving in prescribed gestures, each nuance carefully chosen to match the status or manner of death. Cuneiform tablets document not only their existence, but also their specific payment rates, often substantial, revealing their integral role in Mesopotamian society. This wasn't merely an expression of grief, it was a skilled craft, demanding years of dedicated training to master the repertoire of sacred songs, gestures, and prayers that honored the dead and comforted the living. Their hired tears, though performed, were a vital communal service, a public acknowledgement of loss that solidified social bonds and reinforced religious beliefs. These professions, so foreign to your modern understanding, highlight a fundamental truth: necessity births innovation. From meticulously reading entrails for prophecies to orchestrating communal grief, these jobs were highly specialized, respected, and economically vital. They required extensive training and offered significant social status, demonstrating that what you deem bizarre was, for ancient Mesopotamians, simply practical expertise. They show you that work, in its essence, is a reflection of a society's deepest needs and beliefs. You feel the rough, cool surface of a small, cylindrical stone in your hand, examining its intricately carved details. This is the work of a seal cutter. As you watch a master at their craft, you hear the delicate scrape of a bronze tool against obsidian or lapis lazuli, a sound of precise artistry. With remarkable dexterity, they transform a tiny cylinder into a miniature landscape of gods, kings, and animals. These weren't mere decorative objects. They were the very foundation of trust and legality in ancient Mesopotamia, functioning as personal signatures. Every contract, every letter, every legal document, even storage jars and doors to granaries, required the impress of a unique cylinder seal. Cuneiform records document their widespread use, and archaeological excavations unearth countless examples, revealing the immense artistic skill and technical knowledge required. A seal cutter wasn't just an artist, they were a security expert, creating complex designs that were nearly impossible to forge, ensuring the integrity of transactions and identity. The training was extensive, often a lifelong apprenticeship, demanding not only artistic talent, but also a deep understanding of materials and iconography. Master seal cutters enjoyed high status, serving royal courts and wealthy merchants, their work literally sealing the deals that built an empire. Then, you are drawn by a low, rhythmic chant, a sound that seems to vibrate in your very bones. You detect the faint, earthy scent of burnt herbs and perhaps a metallic tang that suggests bloodletting. You are in the presence of an ashipu, an incantation priest. Before you, a person lies still, clearly afflicted by illness. In this ancient world, disease wasn't always understood as purely physical. It was often believed to be caused by demonic possession, curses, or divine anger. The ashipu moves with practiced authority, performing a ritual that combines what you might call early medicine with profound spiritual intervention. You hear their voice rise and fall in ancient incantations, specific to the perceived ailment. You might see them applying poultices, administering herbal remedies, or performing small symbolic gestures, all designed to appease angry gods or drive out malevolent spirits. Cuneiform medical texts, found in temple archives, meticulously detail these spells and treatments, showing a complex system that integrated both empirical observation and religious belief. This wasn't primitive superstition, it was their most advanced form of healthcare. An ashipu underwent years of rigorous training, learning vast catalogues of spells, rituals, and the subtle signs of illness and divine displeasure. They were highly respected figures, essential for healing both the body and the soul of the community, holding a critical role in a society where the divine was interwoven with every aspect of life. These unique professions, from the artist security expert to the spiritual doctor, highlight how ancient Mesopotamia ingeniously solved the practical and existential problems of their time. They show you that intelligence, creativity, and skill manifest in ways entirely shaped by their cultural landscape. What appears bizarre from your distant vantage point was, in their reality, nothing short of essential expertise, holding communities and civilizations together. You feel a sudden chill on your skin, a dampness in the air as you enter a dimly lit chamber where the scent of warm blood and earthy incense hangs heavy. Before you, a sacrificial animal lies inert, its flank freshly opened. Your eyes are drawn to its liver, glistening and dark, laid out on a clean linen cloth. Here, amidst the solemn silence, stands a figure of immense authority and concentration, the Baru, the diviner. This is not some crude act of magic. You are witnessing a sophisticated, revered science of prediction. You watch as the Baru, their movements precise and deliberate, begins to scrutinize the organ. Their fingers trace the lobes. Their eyes examine every discoloration, every subtle imperfection, every vein and fissure. For the Mesopotamians, these internal organs, particularly the liver, were believed to be a direct channel for divine messages, a map of the future etched by the gods themselves. Cuneiform records document the consultations of kings with these diviners before undertaking any major state affair. Imagine the immense pressure, a battle's outcome, a new queen's fertility, the success of a vital construction project, all hinged on the interpretations derived from these glistening patterns. Archaeological digs have unearthed extensive libraries of detailed omen texts, thick clay tablets meticulously cataloguing hundreds of possible liver abnormalities and their corresponding prophecies. These manuals reveal that the Baru's practice was a complex, codified system, not random guesswork. They possessed specialized anatomical knowledge, albeit through an ancient lens, and a formidable understanding of symbolic meanings. Becoming a Baru required years, even decades, of arduous apprenticeship, mastering not just the physical examination, but also the vast written tradition of omen interpretation. This demanded literacy, a rare and highly valued skill in the ancient world, alongside keen observational abilities. Consequently, diviners held incredibly high status. They were not just priests, but crucial advisors to the most powerful individuals in the kingdom, their interpretations directly influencing policy and preventing potential disasters. They provided a sense of control and foresight in a world that often felt unpredictable and terrifying. Their training and expertise, the very system of belief they upheld, made their bizarre profession utterly indispensable. What you perceive as strange, perhaps even unsettling, was for them a rational, critical path to understanding the unknown. It reminds you that the boundaries of science and spirituality often merge, and the human need to comprehend the future is a universal thread, weaving through all civilizations, no matter how distant or different their methods may seem. You feel the vibrant pulse of ancient Mesopotamia now, not in a royal court or a solemn temple, but in the heart of its bustling market. The air hums with a cacophony of voices, merchants haggling, livestock lowing, the distant chime of a hammer. You smell spices, baked bread, and the rich earth of the riverbanks. Here, amid the clamour, the true economic and social tapestry of this groundbreaking civilization unfolds, revealing how its strange professions were not just tolerated, but actively sought out and highly valued. You see the results of the fuller's labour, piles of clean, vibrant textiles ready for sale. You remember the pungent workshops, yet here, The quality of the fabric speaks for itself. Cuneiform tablets consistently list fullers as earning substantial wages, often more than basic labourers. They weren't reviled, they were respected professionals whose practical skill was essential for producing clean cloth, a commodity in constant demand. Their seemingly repulsive work translated directly into tangible wealth and status. Further into the market, you might catch the robust laughter spilling from a tavern, a place often run by a beer goddess priestess. You hear the clink of clay mugs, feel the communal warmth. These women, dominant in the brewing trade, weren't just pouring drinks, they were vital economic players. Hammurabi's laws didn't just regulate beer prices and quality, they specifically addressed female tavern keepers, underscoring their power and protection within the legal framework. Their sacred craft was also a thriving business, providing safe sustenance and community hubs. Amidst the bartering, you might notice a wealthy merchant clutching a clay tablet, turning it over to reveal a fresh, intricate impression. This is the mark of a seal cutter. Their artistry wasn't confined to grand palaces. It permeated every corner of commerce. Every contract, every official communication, every proof of ownership was authenticated by these tiny, unique cylinders. Master seal cutters were artists and security experts, essential for the trust and legality underpinning this burgeoning economy, and their services commanded high fees. Even the more esoteric professions had their place here. You might observe someone discreetly consulting a diviner, their hushed whispers seeking guidance on a trade venture or a family matter, and silver exchanging hands for these whispers of destiny. Or you could hear hushed discussions about the best incantation priest to ward off an illness plaguing a family member. These were not fringe figures. They were experts whose specialized knowledge, literacy, and long years of training made them indispensable, earning them respect, high status, and often substantial payment, not just from kings, but from ordinary citizens seeking solutions to life's profound uncertainties. What truly separates ancient Mesopotamian society from your own is its definition of value. Jobs that you find bizarre or even disgusting were, for them, perfectly logical, practical solutions to real problems. From cleaning clothes and brewing safe drinks to predicting the future and validating legal documents, these diverse professionals were skilled, compensated, and foundational. They remind you that the definition of normal work is a cultural construct, and these ancient, unexpected professions literally built the legal, economic, and social frameworks of the world's first civilizations. They show you the sheer adaptability of human ingenuity, always finding ways to thrive. You feel the oppressive, humid air cling to your skin, thick with the scent of stagnant water and decaying reeds. The sun beats down with a relentless intensity that makes your head throb. Your feet sink into the soft, sucking mud with every step, the coarse grit working its way between your toes. This is the heart of the Mesopotamian marshes, the very edge of the wild, and here you witness a labour that is as fundamental as it is brutally harsh. Before you, a figure, stripped to the waist, their skin bronzed and scarred, moves through the dense thicket of tall reeds. They wield a simple, sharpened bronze sickle, its glint momentarily catching the blinding sun. This is a reed gatherer, a job so physically demanding, so utterly exposed to the raw elements, that from your modern perspective, it feels both bizarre and incredibly dangerous. You hear the constant, infuriating buzz of insects, mosquitoes, flies, tiny biting gnats that land on any exposed flesh, leaving behind an itchy, burning sting. This is the sting of 1,000 cuts, not just from the sharp edges of the reeds that inevitably slice your hands and arms as you wrestle them down, but from the incessant, maddening assault of the marsh's inhabitants. You feel the sweat run in rivulets down your back, mixing with mud and the ever-present insect-repellent smoke from a smouldering torch held by a nearby helper. The exertion is immense, the air thick with the smell of effort and the raw green scent of cut stalks. Yet, this grueling, seemingly primitive occupation was absolutely vital to the flourishing cities just beyond the marsh's edge. Think of it, those towering ziggurats, the grand homes of kings and priests, the humble dwellings of farmers. Many were reinforced or even entirely constructed from bundled reeds. Boats that plied the rivers were crafted from them. Baskets, mats, even the very styluses used to carve cuneiform on clay tablets came from these stalks. Cuneiform records document teams of these workers, often paid in rations of grain, their labour the unseen foundation of every structure, every piece of writing, every journey. There were no easy shortcuts, no advanced machinery to tame this wild environment. It was pure, back-breaking human effort, day in and day out, enduring the scorching heat, the biting insects, the risk of disease from the stagnant water. The training was simply survival and endurance, learning to navigate the treacherous terrain and mastering the swing of the sickle without severing a limb. Their status might not have been that of a royal advisor, but their contribution was undeniable. They were the anonymous, calloused hands that provided the very building blocks of the world's first cities. This work reminds you of the profound hidden costs of early civilization, the immense physical toll taken on those whose harsh labour created the comfort and infrastructure for others. It shows you that even the dirtiest, most arduous jobs, far from being absurd, were the bedrock upon which empires rose. Your own sense of discomfort at the bugs and the mud highlights how removed you are from the visceral, often brutal, realities that shaped human history. You feel the grit of fine sand against your teeth, carried on a breeze that smells of sun-baked mud brick and distant irrigation canals. You stand in the heart of a Mesopotamian city, the rhythmic thud of mallets on clay, the distant shouts of labourers, and the chatter of merchants all forming a vibrant, continuous hum. You've journeyed through the individual tasks, the pungent fuller, the solemn diviner, the wailing mourner, and now you begin to see how these seemingly bizarre professions weave together, forming the very bones, the sinews, the vital organs of this complex ancient civilization. The reeds harvested from the marshes, which stung your skin with 1,000 insect bites, are now bundled and lashed, becoming the structural framework for houses, or refined into writing implements. The cloth cleaned by fullers, whose methods you found so repugnant, now drapes elegantly on city dwellers or sails across the market in bales, a testament to their essential, well-compensated skill. Cuneiform records often list their substantial earnings, proving their integral role in textile production. You consider these spiritual architects of this world, the Gala priests, their gender-fluid roles reflecting a complex divinity, their rituals binding communities to their gods, or the dream interpreters, whose counsel, documented in detailed omen catalogues, shaped royal decrees, turning whispers from the night into pillars of state policy. These weren't mystical outliers, they were official government positions, respected advisors whose literacy and expertise provided a crucial form of political intelligence and psychological stability. Then, there's the sheer physicality of daily life. You watch as a woman, a beer goddess priestess perhaps, ladles out safe, life-sustaining beverage in a bustling tavern. Hammurabi's laws regulated her trade with serious penalties, demonstrating not only its economic importance, but also the essential, skilled work predominantly undertaken by women. Her role in providing safe sustenance and fostering social gathering was undeniable. And every contract, every transaction, every legal document that secures this bustling commerce bears the intricate mark of a seal cutter, an artist and a security expert whose work ensured trust and order in a pre-paper world. Even the professionals of sorrow and healing, the lamentation priests and the incantation priests, contributed their own unique fundamental threads. They managed the profound human experiences of grief and illness, ensuring spiritual well-being and social cohesion. Their specialized training, documented in ancient texts detailing their specific songs, gestures, spells, and herbal remedies, reveals them as vital practitioners, not unlike modern-day therapists or doctors, albeit operating within a very different worldview. What strikes you now, standing amidst this ancient clamour, is the sheer practicality behind every one of these strange jobs. They arose not from absurdity, but from necessity. Lacking modern chemicals, medicine, or legal infrastructure, these societies ingeniously crafted solutions, turning human ingenuity, however unusual the form, into the bedrock of their world. These individuals were skilled professionals, often well compensated, and deeply integrated into the social and economic fabric, holding positions of significant status. Their world wasn't strange to them. It was simply real. It forces you to confront the powerful truth that normal work is a culturally defined concept, a fluid idea shaped by the unique problems and beliefs of a given time. These bizarre jobs didn't just exist. They literally built the world's first cities, laws, and writing systems, teaching you that the foundations of civilization are often laid by hands, performing tasks your modern mind struggles to comprehend. You step into a cool, shadowed room, the air immediately thick with the rich, sweet, yeasty scent of fermenting barley. The aroma, both earthy and intoxicating, clings to your tongue. Here, amidst large clay vats and towering earthenware jars, you find yourself in the heart of an ancient Mesopotamian brewery. This isn't a dark, masculine den, but a vibrant space dominated by women, their movements practiced and efficient. This is the realm of the beer goddess priestess, and you are witnessing a craft as sacred as it is practical. You observe them as they mash grains, their hands working with practiced rhythm, then straining the thick, cloudy liquid through coarse sieves. The entire process from malting to fermentation requires immense skill and a deep understanding of natural processes. To your modern eye, beer might seem a casual drink, but for these ancient people, it was a fundamental staple, often safer to consume than the unpredictable, often contaminated river water. It was sustenance, medicine, and a central element in religious offerings, overseen by the goddess Ninkasi herself, the patron deity of brewing. Archaeological evidence shows brewery equipment in both domestic settings and within temple precincts, revealing its ubiquity and importance. Cuneiform records document that women overwhelmingly dominated this crucial profession. This wasn't merely a female labor role, it was a revered sacred craft, granting brewers significant social standing and economic autonomy. You can almost feel the satisfaction in their focused labor, knowing they are providing for their community's most basic needs. The importance of their work is underscored by the very laws of the land. Hammurabi's laws regulated the brewing and sale of beer with remarkable precision and severity. You read on tablets that tavern keepers, often women, face strict rules regarding prices and quality. Watering down beer, a fraudulent act, could result in a death penalty. This wasn't arbitrary. It protected a vital industry and ensured public health, demonstrating the immense economic power and societal trust placed in these brewers. They weren't desperate individuals doing simple chores. They were skilled professionals, often business owners who managed their own taverns with legal protections shaping both the economy and daily life. What you perceive as a mere alcoholic beverage was, in this ancient world, a cornerstone of civilization, a liquid bridge between the mundane and the divine. The women who brewed it were not just artisans, but essential figures, providing a safe drink, earning a livelihood, and fulfilling a sacred duty. It makes you realize that what defines a strange job is purely a matter of perspective, and that even the most seemingly ordinary tasks can, in another time, carry extraordinary weight and purpose. You feel the rough clay of the drinking vessel against your lips, the taste of the thick, grainy beer, a potent mix of sweet and earthy. The communal hum of the tavern envelops you, a gentle cacophony of voices, laughter, and the clinking of pottery. Here, amidst the bustling city, you understand the profound social role of the beer brewed by the priestess from the previous chapter. This isn't merely a drink, it's a social lubricant, a source of comfort, and a fundamental form of nourishment, often safer than any water source available. You watch as the tavern keeper, almost certainly a woman, moves with confident grace among her patrons. Her presence is not just one of service, but of authority. Cuneiform records document that women predominantly managed brewing operations and taverns, holding significant economic power and social standing in Mesopotamian society. This was not a side job. It was a revered profession, embodying the spirit of Ninkasi, the beer goddess. The economic implications of this liquid gold are stark. Archaeological evidence shows that beer was frequently used as a form of payment, a liquid wage for labourers and soldiers. You see workers exchanging tokens for mugs, their day's hard toil directly rewarded with this sustaining brew. Hammurabi's laws regulated this vital commodity with astonishing detail. You recall the severity of the statutes, laws specifically addressing female tavern keepers, dictating fair prices, and imposing the death penalty for diluting beer. This wasn't abstract legal theory. It was a tangible threat, ensuring quality and preventing fraud in an industry essential to daily survival and ritual. These laws underscore just how critical beer was, not just for pleasure, but as a regulated, foundational element of their economy. The blurred line between the sacred and the secular in this tavern is fascinating. Offerings of beer were made to the gods, yet it fueled daily life. The priestess, both a religious figure and a shrewd businesswoman, epitomizes this integration. Her expertise, honed through years of practical experience and guarded by law, made her a pillar of the community, responsible for both spiritual offerings and the physical well-being of her patrons. What strikes you is how this seemingly mundane beverage and the work involved in producing and distributing it served so many vital functions. It demonstrates that the value and purpose of work are deeply intertwined with a society's unique challenges and beliefs. In ancient Mesopotamia, the beer goddess priestess wasn't just pouring drinks. She was providing a safe staple, sustaining the workforce, enriching the economy, and performing sacred rites, all within a profession that offered considerable power and respect. You realize that a simple mug of beer held far more weight and meaning than you could have ever imagined. You feel the cool, unforgiving surface of a small stone cylinder, perhaps lapis lazuli, obsidian, or steatite pressed into your palm. The air around you is faintly gritty, carrying the subtle, sharp scent of pulverized mineral. You hear the rhythmic, almost meditative scrape of a bronze stylus, or perhaps a harder flint against stone, a sound of immense concentration. Before you, a figure sits hunched, their brow furrowed, their calloused fingers stained with the fine dust of their craft. This is a seal cutter, and you are witnessing the creation of the ancient world's most ubiquitous and vital form of identification. You lean closer, observing the meticulous precision required. With tools no more sophisticated than hardened points and abrasives, they are carving an entire miniature world onto a surface barely the length of your thumb. You see gods with horned crowns, powerful lions battling heroes, intricate patterns of reeds and rivers, all emerging in microscopic detail. Every line, every swirl, every tiny figure demands an unwavering hand and a visionary eye. This isn't just craftsmanship, it's artistry born of necessity, demanding years, even decades, of dedicated apprenticeship to master the nuances of different stones and the complex iconography of their civilization. These intricate cylinder seals were far more than mere trinkets. They were the binding force of all transactions, the bedrock of legal authority, and the undeniable signature of an individual or office in ancient Mesopotamia. Imagine a contract, a letter, a bill of sale, even the official closing of a granary door, all required the unique impression of a seal. Cuneiform records document their widespread use, and archaeological digs have unearthed thousands upon thousands of these small wonders, each a unique testament to a person's identity and their place in society. The seal cutter was, in essence, an artist, a scribe, and a security expert all rolled into one. Their ability to carve such intricate, distinct designs was the primary defense against forgery. A master seal cutter held a position of high status, often serving royal courts and wealthy merchants, their work literally authenticating the decisions and prosperity of the empire. They understood the properties of the precious and semi-precious stones they worked with, knowing how to coax beauty and function from recalcitrant materials. While primarily a male profession, cuneiform texts suggest that some women also entered this demanding craft. What you hold in your hand, then, is not just a carved stone, but a symbol of trust, law, and identity. Its purpose, though seemingly simple, was utterly indispensable for the functioning of the world's first bureaucratic and economic systems. It makes you realize that even the smallest, most meticulously crafted objects often carry the heaviest weight of civilization, reminding you that intricate skills, even those covered in stone dust, are often the quiet pillars upon which great societies are built. You feel the smooth, cool weight of a freshly carved cylinder seal resting in the palm of your hand. It's a tiny masterpiece, perhaps barely an inch long, yet its surface is a universe of intricate lines and figures. You can almost feel the residual stone dust under your fingernails, a testament to the immense concentration required to create such precision. The air around you, subtly scented with mineral dust, still carries the faint, rhythmic scrape of the carver's tools, a sound that speaks of deep focus and tireless dedication. This is the workshop of a seal cutter, and you are holding a man's entire identity. You observe the artisan, their eyes keen, their hands steady as they work on another piece. With tools no more sophisticated than bronze chisels, flint points, and abrasive powders, they transform unyielding materials like lapis lazuli, obsidian, or hematite into miniature landscapes of gods, heroes, animals, and symbolic patterns. Every single stroke matters. Every detail is crucial. This wasn't merely decorative carving. It was a highly specialized, absolutely essential profession that demanded years, even decades, of rigorous apprenticeship. These individuals honed not just artistic skill, but also a deep knowledge of geology, iconography, and the unwritten laws of visual identity. For the people of ancient Mesopotamia, these cylinder seals were the very bedrock of trust and legality. Cuneiform records document their ubiquitous use across all levels of society. Imagine every contract, every letter, every bill of sale, every legal document, even the securing of a storage jar, required the unique impression of a personal seal. Archaeological digs have unearthed tens of thousands of them, each one a unique signature that authenticated an individual's presence and agreement. The seal cutter, therefore, was far more than just a skilled craftsman. They were an artist of security, a guardian of identity. Their ability to craft intricate, distinct designs made forgery incredibly difficult, preserving the integrity of transactions and the very fabric of an organized society. Master seal cutters served royal courts, high-ranking officials, and wealthy merchants, their work directly underpinning the economic and administrative systems of the world's first empires. Their high status and often substantial compensation reflect the irreplaceable value placed on their meticulous, expert craft. While primarily a male profession, cuneiform tablets occasionally suggest that women also achieved mastery in this demanding art. Holding this small cylinder, you grasp the profound truth that a man's entire identity, his agreements, his wealth, his word, could be physically embodied in the palm of your hand. It makes you realize that even in the most ancient of times, humanity's drive for order, security, and verification led to the creation of professions that, while strange to us, were absolutely vital for building and maintaining civilization. They remind you that ingenuity, in all its forms, is always essential, even when it's covered in stone dust. You feel the sudden coolness of polished stone beneath your bare feet as you step into a hushed chamber. The air, despite the general warmth outside, is heavy and still, carrying the distinct, exotic scent of myrrh and other perfumed oils, mixed with the faint, earthy aroma of dried herbs. Before you, a figure, clad in simple, clean linen, kneels beside a prone form. This is an Ashipu, an incantation priest, and you are witnessing a profound act of ancient healing. You watch their hands, moving with precise, almost surgical grace, as they carefully anoint the ailing body with the fragrant oil. Their voice, low and resonant, begins a rhythmic chant, a complex string of words in an ancient tongue that vibrates through the very air around you. In this world, illness wasn't simply a biological malfunction. It was often believed to be a manifestation of divine anger, a curse, or the malevolent work of demons. Therefore, the path to recovery wasn't just physical, it was spiritual, requiring a direct appeal to the gods or an exorcism of unseen forces. As the Ashipu continues their incantation, you notice various small amulets and bundles of specific herbs laid out on a nearby table. Perhaps they apply a poultice or administer a bitter herbal draught. Cuneiform medical texts, unearthed from temple archives, meticulously document these complex treatments, outlining not just detailed spells and prayers, but also surprisingly practical herbal remedies and diagnostic observations. This wasn't mere superstition to the Mesopotamians, it was their advanced medical science, a holistic approach combining empirical observation with religious ritual. Becoming an Ashipu was a rigorous undertaking. It demanded years of intense apprenticeship, mastering not only a vast catalogue of incantations and purification rituals, but also an extensive knowledge of medicinal plants and early anatomical understanding. They were highly literate individuals, capable of deciphering the intricate cuneiform texts that held generations of healing wisdom. This specialized knowledge and their direct connection to the divine granted them immense social status and respect. They were the primary caregivers, the spiritual protectors, essential for maintaining the health and well-being of individuals and, by extension, the entire community. What you witness, a blend of magic and medicine, might seem bizarre or even absurd to your modern sensibilities. Yet, For ancient Mesopotamians, the Ashipu was a pivotal professional, a trusted healer providing tangible relief and spiritual comfort in a world where the line between the physical and the divine was incredibly thin. Their work reminds you that the very nature of healing and the beliefs that underpin it are profoundly shaped by culture and time, offering a glimpse into a time when a perfumed oil and a whispered word carried the weight of life itself. You feel the sudden coolness of polished stone beneath your bare feet, a stark contrast to the rough earth outside, as you step further into the echoing depths of a grand Mesopotamian temple. The air here, though sacred, carries a strange, almost unsettling melancholy, underscored by the faint, high-pitched strains of a haunting melody played on a lyre. Your gaze is drawn to a group of figures, their garments perhaps flowing, their movements graceful, standing apart from the other temple officiants. These are the Gala priests. What immediately strikes you is the duality they embody. These were biological males, yet their very being, their demeanour, and above all, their voices, challenged the rigid gender constructs prevalent in much of ancient society. You listen, transfixed, as they perform their sacred music, their voices rising and falling in complex harmonies. They are singing in a special feminine dialect, a sacred language of devotion reserved exclusively for their rituals. This wasn't merely a stylistic choice, it was a profound act of spiritual identification, allowing them to intimately serve the goddess Inanna. Inanna, or Ishtar as she was known later, was a deity of immense power and paradox, goddess of love and war, fertility and destruction, creation and chaos. Her nature was complex, vibrant, and crucially, gender fluid. To serve such a multifaceted divinity, it made perfect sense that her priests would transcend conventional gender roles, embodying a similar fluidity. You realize that their strangeness is entirely a product of your modern lens. For the Mesopotamians, the Gala were not an anomaly, but a vital reflection of their gods. Archaeological findings often reveal distinct Gala priest quarters within these sprawling temple complexes, providing tangible evidence of their established and integral place. They were not marginalized figures, but respected necessary professionals, crucial to the daily operations and spiritual well-being of the temple. Temple archives list their specific roles, detailing their participation in purification rites, lamentations, and joyous festivals. Their economic status was often considerable, reflective of their high social standing and religious authority. Their path to this unique profession began early, often in childhood. They would enter special schools, undertaking years of rigorous training. You can imagine them diligently learning the intricate feminine dialect, mastering ancient musical instruments, and memorizing vast repertoires of hymns, rituals, and prayers dedicated to Inanna. This wasn't just rote learning, it was a deep immersion into a spiritual identity that demanded intellectual discipline and unwavering devotion. Their status as respected temple officials, advising and guiding the spiritual life of the city, granted them significant authority in a world otherwise dominated by men. Their existence challenges your modern perceptions of gender roles, religious practice, and what constitutes a normal life. It forces you to re-evaluate the human capacity for diversity and devotion, showing you how ancient civilizations, even in their earliest forms, found profound, often surprising ways to embody and serve the divine, forging paths of faith that transcend simple binaries. You feel a faint, metallic tang on your tongue, a taste that seems to emanate from the shadowed corner where an Ashipu, an incantation priest, works intently. The room is small, and the air is close, thick with the scent of smouldering herbs, pungent and slightly bitter. Before you, a young woman lies on a mat, her breathing shallow, her eyes darting with fever. Her dark hair, usually neatly braided, is spread tangled around her head, matted with sweat and disarray. This scene, steeped in ancient belief, reveals a profound Mesopotamian understanding of sickness and cure. The Ashipu kneels, not with a physician's detached calm, but with a focused intensity that suggests a battle against unseen forces. Their hands, nimble and practiced, reach for the woman's hair. You watch, perhaps with a slight shudder, as they meticulously begin to separate the tangled strands, not merely combing them, but treating each knot as if it were a physical manifestation of the illness itself. You can almost feel the rough, dry texture of the human hair as it's worked through, strand by painstaking strand. For the Mesopotamians, illness was rarely just a physical ailment. It was a spiritual invasion, a malevolent demon clinging to the body, a divine curse, knotting the soul. The Ashipu's role was to untangle these spiritual afflictions, and often that meant physically manipulating aspects of the sick person. Cuneiform medical texts, unearthed from temple archives, reveal numerous rituals where hair, nails, or even bodily fluids were collected or ritually handled. These parts were believed to contain the very essence of the afflicted, or to be the binding point of the demon. You see the Ashipu murmur ancient incantations, their voice a low, rhythmic drone, as they painstakingly separate a particularly stubborn tangle. Each successfully freed strand seems to carry a weight, a small victory against the unseen forces besieging the woman, pulling her towards the realm of the dead. They might even snip a few strands, perhaps to bind the demon away in a specially prepared clay vessel, or to offer it to a protective deity. This wasn't arbitrary. It was a deeply symbolic and highly ritualized form of early medicine, combining empirical observation of symptoms with profound spiritual belief. The years of training for an Ashipu were immense, demanding literacy to interpret the vast catalogues of omen texts and medical incantations, texts that covered everything from common fevers to mysterious curses. They understood the properties of countless medicinal herbs, the subtle signs of physical disease, and the intricate mythology of demons and gods whose influence needed to be appeased or expelled. This expertise, rare and complex, ensured their high social status and constant demand. They were not simply healers, they were exorcists, priests and diagnosticians, navigating a world where physical and spiritual health, the well-being of the living, and the spectre of the dead were inextricably linked. This intimate, almost unsettling ritual reveals a profound cultural truth. The hair, an extension of the self, became a battleground for health, a conduit between the human and the divine. What you might find strange or even primitive was, for them, the cutting edge of care, a desperate, deeply respected attempt to reclaim life from the clutches of the unknown, to keep the living from succumbing to the cold embrace of the dead. It reminds you that the boundaries of medicine and belief are incredibly permeable, especially when faced with the fragility of the human body and the mysteries of mortality. You feel a different kind of quiet now, a deep, resonant hush that contrasts sharply with the earlier sounds of ritualistic healing. Stepping further into the temple complex, your gaze is drawn to a figure moving with a serene grace. Their head is bare, gleaming smoothly in the torchlight, utterly devoid of the tangled hair you witnessed in the Ashipu's chamber. This is a Gala priest, a figure whose very appearance challenges your modern assumptions about gender, devotion, and power. You perceive the subtle difference in their voice as they begin to chant, a melodic resonance, speaking in a special feminine dialect that seems to weave through the ancient stones. Their castrated status, a physical reality that would be profoundly shocking or even tragic in your own time, was for them a sacred vow, a deliberate act of dedication. The bare scalp, a direct consequence of this sacred commitment, was not a mark of shame or subservience, but a visible sign of their unique, elevated status. It symbolized their transcendence of conventional masculine roles, allowing them to intimately serve the goddess Inanna. Inanna, or Ishtar, was a deity of immense, often paradoxical power, goddess of love and war, fertility and destruction. Her divinity often defied simple gender boundaries, and the Gala priests, biological males performing feminine gender roles, reflected this complexity. Their appearance, their special dialect, their sacred music, and their rituals were all integral to embodying the goddess's multifaceted nature. Archaeological finds frequently reveal distinct Gala priest quarters within temple complexes, tangible evidence of their established and highly respected place in the religious hierarchy. Their path to this unique profession was a calling from childhood. You can imagine them, young boys, entering special temple schools, undertaking years of rigorous training. They learned not only the intricate feminine dialect and vast repertoires of hymns, but also the precise movements and sacred gestures for countless rituals. This intense, specialized education, often requiring literacy in a society where it was rare, made them intellectual and spiritual elites. Far from being outcasts, the Gala were respected temple officials, holding religious authority and influencing the spiritual life of the city. Cuneiform tablets list them as crucial to temple operations, their economic standing often substantial, reflecting their high social status. Their very strangeness was, in fact, the source of their power and respect, making them indispensable bridges between the human and the divine. This glimpse into the life of the Gala priest reveals how dramatically concepts of gender, devotion, and status can differ across civilizations. The bare scalp, a symbol of renunciation and spiritual dedication, became a crown of unique authority in a world where piety and practicality were inextricably linked. It reminds you that true understanding of ancient societies demands that you shed your own cultural filters, allowing the logic of their world to reveal itself, even in its most unexpected forms. You feel a pervasive unease in the air, a sense of something unseen yet keenly felt, a phantom ache that seems to permeate the very atmosphere of this quiet chamber. Before you, a patient, their face etched with a subtle, persistent pain that defies easy explanation, shifts restlessly on a low mat. No visible wound, no obvious fever, just a deep-seated discomfort that eludes simple understanding. This is the challenge faced by the Ashipu, the incantation priest, whose role extended far beyond mere ritual to encompass a sophisticated, if ancient, form of diagnosis and healing. You watch the Ashipu, their gaze intense, as they listen intently to the patient's whispered symptoms. A burning sensation in the gut, a gnawing unease in the chest, a weakness that saps strength without apparent cause. For the Mesopotamians, these phantom aches were not imagined. They were believed to be the subtle work of minor demons, envious ghosts, or the distant displeasure of a deity. The Ashipu's task was to identify the invisible antagonist and prescribe the correct spiritual antidote. Their method, however, was far from arbitrary. You hear a soft, dry rustle as the Ashipu turns from the patient to a stack of ancient clay tablets. These are not just religious texts. They are vast compendiums of medical knowledge and omen series, meticulously catalogued by generations of scholars. You observe their practiced fingers tracing cuneiform script, their eyes scanning for parallels between the patient's vague symptoms and the detailed descriptions of various illnesses and their associated supernatural causes. Cuneiform medical texts document specific incantations, herbal remedies and ritual acts tailored for everything from a hand of a ghost affecting the limbs to a toothache demon causing localized pain. The air now carries the faint scent of dry clay and aged knowledge, mixed with the ever-present aroma of protective herbs. Becoming an Ashipu demanded immense intellectual rigor, years of intense apprenticeship learning, not only the vast pantheon of gods and demons, but also the complex diagnostic criteria encoded in these written records. This required rare literacy and an encyclopedic memory, making them the intellectual giants of ancient medicine. They were trained to connect physical manifestations with their underlying spiritual causes, a form of holistic healthcare that recognized the intricate link between body, mind, and the divine. Their role was to interpret the universe for their patients, to bring order and understanding to the chaos of illness. They weren't just chanting spells, they were practicing a complex, learned profession, applying a vast body of documented knowledge to alleviate human suffering. The phantom ache, inexplicable to the sufferer, found its explanation and its potential cure within the rustle of those ancient clay tablets. It reveals to you the deep human need for meaning in illness and the diverse ways in which expertise, however strange its form, has always been essential for healing. You feel a palpable coolness in the ancient air, a stark contrast to the oppressive heat outside, as you stand in the hushed, echoing grandeur of a Mesopotamian temple. A faint, almost melodic hum seems to vibrate through the towering walls, a sound not of wind but of voices. Your gaze falls upon a figure, moving with a deliberate grace, distinct amidst the other temple officiants. Their head is smooth, perhaps adorned with a simple band, utterly devoid of the thick, tangled hair you might expect from a man of this era. This is a Gala priest, and their very presence challenges your modern understanding of identity, devotion, and power. You watch them as they approach an altar, their hands moving through ancient gestures. Then their voice rises, not a booming masculine tone, but a melodic, high-pitched resonance as they intone a sacred chant in a special feminine dialect. This wasn't a performance, it was a profound spiritual connection, a deliberate act allowing them to intimately serve the goddess Inanna. Inanna, the powerful deity of love and war, fertility and destruction, often transcended conventional gender boundaries, embodying a vibrant, fluid divinity. To serve her meant, for these priests, to reflect her complex, multifaceted essence. For the Mesopotamians, the Gala were not an anomaly or outcasts. They were absolutely essential religious specialists, their gender-fluid roles a direct and necessary expression of their god's intricate nature. Archaeological evidence shows their distinct quarters within sprawling temple complexes, providing tangible proof of their integrated and highly respected place within the religious hierarchy. Their path to this unique authority began not in battle or commerce, but in childhood, often entering specialized temple schools. You can almost feel the discipline, the intense focus as they undertook years of rigorous training. They mastered not only the sacred music and intricate rituals, but critically, the specific feminine dialect that was their liturgical language. This profound, specialized knowledge, often requiring a level of literacy rare in the ancient world, elevated them to a high social status. Cuneiform records document their roles in temple operations, and while they might not have commanded armies or inherited land, their compensation was often substantial, reflecting their deep value. Their power was of a different kind, a spiritual authority, a voice that spoke for the goddess, guiding the city's conscience rather than its physical defense. In a society where traditional male power frequently centered on lineage and the ability to produce heirs, the Gala held influence through devotion, profound specialized knowledge, and a unique personal identification with the divine. Their bare scalp, their distinct voice, their gender fluidity. These were not deficiencies, but the very source of their strength and sacred purpose. It forces you to consider how profoundly societies define power, contribution, and identity, revealing that what seems bizarre to you was a revered, necessary profession, a voice without an heir, holding a profound, unquestioned power without a throne, deeply essential to the world's first complex civilizations. It truly makes you wonder what forms of power you might be overlooking in your own time. You recoil instantly, a wave of unbearable stench assaulting your nostrils, cloying and sickening. It's the acrid tang of human waste, decay, and stagnant refuse, a smell that seems to cling to the very air in this narrow, sunless alleyway. You find yourself at the hidden margins of a bustling Mesopotamian city, far from the grand ziggurats and perfumed temples. Here, amidst the overflowing drains and refuse pits, you encounter one of ancient civilization's most truly disgusting yet absolutely essential professions. The waste collector, or as some might have called them, the gong farmer of the first cities. You see a figure, often cloaked, perhaps with a piece of rough cloth tied over their mouth and nose, moving with practiced, if weary, efficiency. Their tools are simple: a heavy wooden scoop, a woven basket, a bucket made of hardened pitch. They are engaged in the grim, continuous task of clearing the refuse that accumulates from the city's dense population, human waste, discarded food scraps, the offal from butchered animals, all mingling in a putrid stew. You can almost feel the ooze clinging to their worn sandals, the constant irritation of flies buzzing around their head, an endless battle against filth. While cuneiform records rarely lavish praise on such thankless labour, the very existence of well-maintained drainage systems and designated refuse areas, unearthed by archaeological excavations in cities like Ur and Babylon, speaks volumes. These ancient urban centres understood that unchecked waste meant rampant disease and societal breakdown. This wasn't a job for the faint of heart or the highborn. It was for those hardened individuals whose daily grind, though repulsive to you, literally kept plague at bay and allowed thousands to live in close proximity. Their work, though low in status, was undeniably practical. In a world without modern sanitation, these workers were public health heroes, albeit unsung ones. They prevented the streets from becoming impassable sewers, ensuring some semblance of order and cleanliness within the thriving metropolises. Their training was simple: a strong back, a cast-iron stomach, and an intimate, unglamorous knowledge of where the city's discarded things accumulated. Compensation, though not opulent, would have been sufficient for survival, likely daily rations of grain, perhaps some copper for their brutal, persistent effort. It was a job performed mostly by men, due to the sheer physical demands and the societal stigma. This unsung profession, hidden away in the fitted back alleys, reminds you of the immense, often invisible, labour required to sustain any civilization, especially at its dawn. The grandeur of ziggurats, the wisdom of dream interpreters, the sanctity of priests, all were supported by the gruesome, necessary work of clearing the city's forgotten things. It forces you to confront the often unacknowledged truth that progress isn't just about innovation and glory. It's profoundly reliant on the raw, often disgusting, toil of those who grapple with the very real, unsavoury challenges of human existence. Their work, though it makes your stomach churn, was nothing less than essential for survival. You still feel that nauseating stickiness in the air, the cloying, inescapable stench of decay and human refuse, a smell that seems to coat the back of your throat. You are deeper now, in the shadowed, forgotten corners of the great city, far from the grand plazas and bustling markets. Your feet slip on slick, compacted grime, and the buzzing of flies is a constant, irritating companion. Here, amidst overflowing ceramic drains and crude refuse pits, you come face to face with an occupation so utterly repulsive to your modern sensibilities, yet profoundly essential: the waste collector, the unglamorous gong farmer of ancient Mesopotamia. You watch as a figure, their face often obscured by a simple cloth, their body stooped, works with a relentless, grim determination. They wield a heavy wooden scoop, a woven basket, and a basic pitch-lined bucket, moving with a practiced rhythm through the accumulating filth. This is the endless task of removing human waste from latrines, discarded food scraps that attract vermin, and the organic detritus of thousands of lives lived in close proximity. You can almost feel the grit and dampness, the constant fight against the sheer volume of a city's waste. It's a battle against putrefaction, against disease, against chaos. While cuneiform records don't often sing the praises of such roles, the archaeological evidence speaks volumes. Extensive drainage systems like those uncovered in Ur and Babylon demonstrate a clear understanding that waste management was critical. Without these labourers, these unsung heroes of public health, the magnificent cities you have explored would have quickly succumbed to plague and filth, collapsing under their own refuse. Their work, though low in social standing and universally avoided, was a practical, daily necessity that literally kept the cities functioning and their populations alive. Their training wasn't found in a temple school or an artisan's workshop. It was forged in sheer endurance and a strong stomach. They learned the rhythms of the city's waste production, the best routes for removal, the most efficient ways to transport the vile cargo outside the city walls. Compensation, while not lavish, was typically sufficient for survival. Perhaps daily rations of grain, a humble wage in copper, a testament to the unglamorous but undeniable value of their brutal effort. It was a profession predominantly undertaken by men, driven by the intense physical demands and the societal stigma attached to handling such repulsive materials. You realize that these individuals, living on the very edge of sickness and society, performed a task so fundamental that all the complex laws, spiritual rituals, and economic transactions of Mesopotamia rested upon their unseen, unappreciated labor. Their existence forces you to confront the often ignored side of civilization's birth, the raw, visceral reality of maintaining human life at scale. It reminds you that the foundations of grandeur are often laid not by kings or priests, but by the calloused hands enduring the most unbearable stench, pushing back against the very chaos that threatens to engulf them. You feel the relentless, searing heat of the Mesopotamian sun bearing down on your neck, a weight that presses into your very bones. The air shimmers above the vast flat plain, carrying the unmistakable scent of wet earth baking dry. Your bare feet sink slightly into the soft, yielding mud as you approach a scene of raw, ceaseless labour. Here, under this brutal, unforgiving sky, you witness a foundational, utterly exhausting occupation. The mud worker, whose back, perpetually caked with the very soil they shape, truly built civilization. You watch as figures, stripped to the waist, their skin bronzed and cracked, move with a rhythmic, almost hypnotic motion. They are digging, mixing, and pounding the rich, clay-laden earth with their hands and bare feet, adding water drawn from a nearby canal until it reaches the perfect, pliable consistency. Then, with practiced speed, they slap this viscous mixture into simple wooden molds. You hear the wet thump of mud hitting wood, the sharp exhale of effort. Each mold, once filled and smoothed, is then carefully inverted, leaving a perfect rectangular mud brick to begin its slow, vital process of drying in the sun. The burning sun on their mud-caked backs is not just a metaphor, it's the constant, undeniable reality of their existence. You feel the fine dust that rises as they work, settling on your skin, mixing with your own sweat. The effort is immense, continuous and monotonous. Yet without these countless, anonymous hands, no city would have risen from the Fertile Crescent. Archaeological sites across Sumer, Akkad, Babylon and Assyria reveal millions upon millions of mud bricks, the very building blocks of ziggurats, temples, palaces and homes. This sheer physical grind, often seen as primitive today, was the irreplaceable engine of urban expansion and stability. Cuneiform records, while not always detailing the exact wages for such basic labour, frequently list rations of barley or dates as payment, indicating it was essential, compensated work, though certainly not a path to wealth or high status. Their training was simply strength, endurance, and the hard-won experience passed down through generations, learning how to mix the mud just right, how to efficiently fill and release the moulds without breakage. This was predominantly a male occupation, given the immense physical demands. What you witness is more than just manual labour. It's the raw, visceral cost of progress. The stability of complex societies, the grandeur of their architecture, the intricate laws and sophisticated arts you've seen, all literally rested on the shoulders and mud-caked backs of these tireless workers. It reminds you that the foundations of civilization are built not just on brilliant ideas, but on the enduring, often unseen and relentlessly hard toil of countless individuals whose sweat and effort shaped the very earth into the cities you explore. Their work, though grueling, was profoundly meaningful, literally giving form to the earliest dreams of human settlement. You still feel the relentless, searing heat of the Mesopotamian sun, baking the very air around you, making your skin prickle with sweat. Your eyes, squinting against the glare, take in a vast, dusty landscape where the only sound that truly cuts through the shimmering silence is the rhythmic slap, slap, slap of wet earth. You stand in a sprawling open field at the edge of the city, and before you, a foundational scene of ancient civilization unfolds. A brick-making yard, where monuments are quite literally built from the dust beneath your feet. You observe figures, their bodies lean and strong, perpetually covered in a fine layer of ochre dust, their backs glistening with sweat. Their hands, calloused and quick, work the rich, clay-laden soil. They are not merely digging, they are performing an intricate dance of labour. You watch as they scoop wet mud from freshly dug pits, mixing it with chaff or straw for reinforcement. You hear the squelch and grunt of their effort as they stomp the mixture with bare feet, a primitive yet effective method to achieve the perfect consistency. The earthy, damp smell of worked clay is pervasive, filling your lungs with every breath. Then, with a practiced flourish, they slap handfuls of this viscous mud into simple, open-ended wooden moulds. You hear the distinct, satisfying thump as the mud settles. A quick scrape to smooth the top, and then, with an elegant flip, a perfect rectangular mud brick is released onto the hot, dry ground. Row upon endless row of these identical blocks stretch out before you, baking slowly in the sun, transforming from soft earth into the solid, enduring building blocks of an empire. Archaeological excavations across every major Mesopotamian city, from Ur to Babylon, reveal countless millions of these humble mud bricks, testament to this ubiquitous labour. With stone a rare commodity in the Fertile Crescent, these sun-dried blocks were the very backbone of all construction. Ziggurats reaching for the heavens, massive city walls, Intricate temple complexes, the very houses people lived in, all sprung from the tireless efforts of these mud workers. Cuneiform records, while often terse, document the constant need for bricks and the system of rations, often barley or dates, paid to the labourers for this essential, gruelling work. This demanding physical labour, often seen as basic or even primitive today, was, in ancient Mesopotamia, an absolutely indispensable profession. Their training wasn't academic, it was physical, passed down through generations of hard-won experience, knowing the right mud, the right water, the right pressure, the right drying time. It was predominantly a male occupation, given the sheer, unremitting physical strength required. What you witness is more than just the manufacture of building materials. It's the raw, visceral act of creation. It makes you realize that the most astounding achievements of early civilization, the very monuments that define an era, were not simply conceived by kings or priests, but literally built, brick by sun-baked brick, by the enduring sweat and relentless toil of countless hands. Their work, though far from glamorous, was a profound act of shaping the world, reminding you that progress is often cemented by the most elemental, dirtiest, yet utterly essential forms of human labour. You feel the rough, heavy wood of the yoke pressing into your shoulders, its familiar weight already a phantom ache even before you begin. The sun, a blazing orb in the cloudless Mesopotamian sky, beats down relentlessly, drying your throat before you can even properly begin your task. All around you, the city hums with life, a vibrant tapestry of shouts, commerce, and construction, a life that depends entirely on the precious commodity you are about to transport. You stand by the slow-moving canal, the water a muddy, life-giving ribbon cutting through the arid land. You watch as large earthenware jars, perhaps 5 or even 10 gallons each, are filled, the muddy water sloshing heavily within them. The scent is earthy, primal, a blend of river silt and ancient reeds. Now, with a deep breath, you heave one of these cumbersome vessels onto your shoulder, then another, balancing them precariously from the yoke. You feel the strain immediately, the muscles in your neck and back tightening, a familiar burn igniting with every step. This is the daily existence of the water carrier, a job as old as the first settlements, as physically demanding as it is utterly indispensable. Your journey takes you through narrow, winding alleyways, past bustling market stalls where you glimpse other faces, some weary, some vibrant, all sustained by the labour you and your kind perform. You hear the rhythmic slosh of the water in the jars, a constant reminder of its weight and its vital importance. Every household needs it for drinking, for cooking, for washing. Every potter, every weaver, every brickmaker depends on it. Without you, without this endless, back-breaking trek from the canal to the homes and workshops, the city would simply cease to function. Cuneiform records, though not always detailing the hardships, frequently list water carriers among essential labourers, paid in rations of grain or small amounts of silver. Archaeological digs reveal extensive networks of irrigation canals and countless water storage jars in every household, tangible proof of this ceaseless demand. Your training wasn't formal. It was the brutal education of experience, learning to balance the heavy load, to pace yourself under the scorching sun, to navigate the crowded streets without spilling a single drop. For every drop represents life. This was largely a male occupation, given the sheer physical strength required to haul such heavy loads, hour after grueling hour. What you feel now, the deep ache in your muscles, the parched throat, the relentless heat, reveals a profound truth about early civilization. The grandeur of ziggurats and the wisdom of kings were built not just on ideas, but on the raw, undeniable effort of individuals like you. This seemingly simple task of carrying water was a cornerstone of society, a continuous act of sustenance. It makes you realize that the most basic human needs require the most persistent, often brutal, labor, and that even the humblest tasks can hold the weight of an entire world. You feel an insistent, rasping dryness in your throat, a burning thirst that makes every other sensation fade. The relentless Mesopotamian sun seems to bake the very moisture from your body, leaving you parched and weary. You've seen the effort of the water carrier, the strain of the yoke, the endless trek from the canal, and now you understand the true value of their burden. You stand at a small stall, perhaps a corner of a busy market, where a collection of filled clay jars gleam faintly in the intense light. You reach for a small copper coin, feeling its weight, and exchange it for a cool sip. As the water, perhaps still slightly cloudy with river silt, touches your tongue, it's a revelation. You taste not just liquid, but relief, survival itself. This transaction, seemingly simple, encapsulates a fundamental truth of ancient life. Clean, or at least treated, potable water was a luxury, a commodity purchased at a cost far greater than the copper coin in your hand. You notice the water seller, perhaps a robust man or woman, their face weathered by sun and dust, but their movements efficient. They are not merely selling water, they are mediating a critical, life-sustaining exchange. The water they offer, drawn from distant canals by the ceaseless labor of carriers, is often filtered through sand or treated with simple methods, making it safer than the raw, disease-laden river itself. You recall the previous lessons of beer's purity. Here, water carries a similar, profound importance for basic hydration, for cooking, for the very possibility of health in a crowded city. Cuneiform records document the purchase and distribution of water, its value evident in the prices recorded, and the laws like Hammurabi's that regulated the cost of essential foodstuffs and services. The water carrier, whose unseen struggles you felt, was compensated, not with grandeur, but with enough to make their back-breaking, disease-risking work worthwhile. Their compensation was a direct reflection of the city's desperate need, the price of a cool sip in a parched land. The cultural context of this moment is profound. Your modern world takes clean, readily available water for granted, a tap turn away. But here, every drop carried weight, both physically and economically. This humble transaction, this exchange for a basic necessity, reveals the intricate web of labor and value that sustained the first civilizations. It shows you that the strangest jobs, the ones involving sweat, physical discomfort, and low status, were not just occupations. They were the essential arteries of life, allowing cities to thrive where otherwise only thirst and disease would reign. This simple sip makes you truly appreciate the unseen, ceaseless effort required to make life possible. You feel a chilling, low moan ripple through the air, a sound that seems to rise from the very stone floor beneath your feet. It's not human, not animal, but something deeper, more primal, accompanied by the acrid scent of burning bitumen and strange, bitter herbs. You find yourself in a dimly lit, enclosed space within an ancient Mesopotamian home, the air thick with tension. Before you, and the Shipu, an incantation priest, moves with intense focus, their face grimly set. Their patient, an individual clearly suffering from an unseen affliction, writhes softly on a mat, their distress palpable. Your gaze follows the Ashipu's hands as they meticulously mould a small, crude figurine from wet clay. It's barely recognizable as a human form, perhaps a stylized representation of the sick patient, or even more unsettlingly, of the demon believed to be tormenting them. For the Mesopotamians, illness, misfortune, or even recurring bad luck was often attributed not to natural causes, but to malevolent spirits, curses, or the displeasure of the gods. The Ashipu's role was to identify this invisible assailant, and then, through ritual, to confront and expel it. You watch as the Ashipu whispers ancient incantations, their voice a low rhythmic drone that seems to fill the entire space, weaving a protective yet menacing sonic web. They might press a lock of the patient's hair into the clay, or perhaps a fragment of fingernail, creating a potent symbolic link. The goal is to trap the demon, to lure the malevolent entity from the suffering body into this inert clay effigy. You can almost feel the weight of belief in the air, the desperate hope that this small, unassuming figurine will draw out the very howl of a demon from the patient's tormented spirit. Cuneiform medical texts, meticulously catalogued in temple archives and unearthed by archaeologists, detail hundreds of such rituals. These ancient manuals provide precise instructions for crafting these figurines, the specific incantations to be recited, and the exact methods for disposing of them, often by breaking them, burning them, or burying them far from human habitation, thus banishing the demon forever. This wasn't guesswork. It was a complex, codified system of magical medicine, representing their most advanced understanding of spiritual healing. The Ashipu was a highly respected, deeply learned professional. Their training demanded years of intense apprenticeship, mastering a vast repertoire of spells, complex rituals, and a sophisticated understanding of demonology, all preserved in rare, intricate written tablets. They were intellectual and spiritual elites, wielding a power that comforted the afflicted and protected the community from unseen threats. What you witness, the creation of this simple clay figurine to battle an unseen force, might strike you as bizarre, even primitive. Yet, for ancient Mesopotamians, it was a perfectly rational, essential act of profound healing, protecting the precious balance between the living and the spirit world. It reminds you that the boundaries of medicine, magic, and belief are profoundly permeable, and that human ingenuity, in its oldest forms, always sought to control the uncontrollable, to give form to the invisible, and to secure life even in the face of the unknown. You feel the lingering scent of protective herbs now, the earlier moan of the patient having subsided into a restless, shallow breathing. The clay figurine, perhaps still damp, sits near the afflicted, a silent, potent symbol. But the Ashipu, the incantation priest, hasn't ceased their work. Their brow remains furrowed, their gaze intense, as if listening not just to the patient's physical distress, but to the very whispers of the unseen world. You witness their methodical approach, a fascinating blend of what you would label madness and what was, for them, profound medicine. They turn once more to the stacks of clay tablets, their fingers tracing complex cuneiform symbols. This isn't random divination, it's an intricate diagnostic process. Cuneiform medical texts document vast catalogues of diseases, symptoms, and their corresponding supernatural causes. The Ashipu's task is to precisely identify which demon is at work, which divine transgression has occurred, or which curse has taken root. You see them cross-referencing, comparing the patient's specific aches, fevers, or mental distress against these ancient written records, seeking the exact match that will unlock the proper counterspell or ritual. The mental effort is immense. Years of intense apprenticeship taught them to read these intricate omens and medical series, distinguishing between the hand of a ghost, a toothache demon, or the more generalized anger of Ishtar. This required not just spiritual insight, but formidable intellectual discipline, a deep understanding of human physiology, as it was perceived then, and mastery over a rare and complex literary tradition. Their power didn't come from wild abandon, but from meticulous study, from a systematic attempt to bring order and understanding to the terrifying chaos of illness. Archaeological findings include elaborate temple archives filled with these medical magical texts, demonstrating that the Ashipu's profession was a highly respected, learned, and crucial function within Mesopotamian society. They were the primary caregivers, the interpreters of suffering, providing both physical remedies and spiritual reassurance. Their high status and often generous compensation, documented in cuneiform records, reflect the immense value placed on their ability to walk the delicate line between the visible world of symptoms and the invisible realm of spiritual afflictions. This intricate dance between ritual and diagnosis, between belief and observation, reveals a fundamental truth. For ancient Mesopotamians, these were not separate entities, but intertwined aspects of a single reality. The Ashipu was the bridge, the expert who could navigate both, providing meaning and seeking cure in a world where every illness carried a story. You realize that their medicine, however strange to you, was a profound, holistic attempt to heal the whole person, embodying a deeply human desire to find understanding and solace in the face of suffering, wherever its perceived origins. You feel it before you see it, an overpowering, sickening stench that claws at the back of your throat, a mix of putrid decay, acrid chemicals, and wet animal fur. It's a smell that forces you to instinctively draw your breath short, to taste something vaguely metallic and sour on your tongue. You have wandered to the outskirts of the ancient Mesopotamian city, to a district often located downwind, and here you discover one of civilization's most unsavory, yet utterly essential occupations, the tanner. You watch, perhaps with a grimace, as figures, their faces grimed and hands stained, wrestle with raw animal hides. The hides, stiff and matted with hair, are soaked in large sunken vats. The liquid within these vats is a foul, murky concoction, often a mix of stale human urine, animal dung, and other alkaline substances. You hear the wet, heavy slap of a hide being plunged into this revolting bath, the splash sending droplets of the vile fluid dangerously close. For them, this putrid mixture isn't disgusting. It's a crucial chemical agent, breaking down the tough animal protein, preparing the skin for its transformation into usable leather. Next, you observe them scraping the hides with dull bronze tools, peeling away any remaining flesh and, most graphically, the matted hair. You can almost feel the unpleasant slipperiness of the raw skin, the sheer physical effort required to clean and process each hide. This laborious, multi-stage process, often involving days or weeks of soaking, scraping, and stretching, was the only way to convert a perishable animal skin into durable, versatile leather. Archaeological digs have uncovered tannery districts outside ancient cities, identifiable by their distinct vats and the telltale chemical residues, providing tangible evidence of this crucial industry. Cuneiform records, while not elaborating on the stench, mention leatherworkers as distinct and necessary craftsmen, their products, sandals, waterskins, armor, harnesses, furniture, being ubiquitous and valuable. This wasn't a desperate, last resort job. It was a skilled trade, passed down through generations of apprentices who learned the precise, if revolting, chemistry of their craft. Compensation would have been fair, reflecting the demand for their product and the specialized knowledge, as well as the sheer unpleasantness of the work. It was a profession almost exclusively performed by men due to its physical demands and the inherent repulsiveness of the materials. What you feel, the aversion to the smell and sight, is a stark reminder of your modern distance from the raw necessities of life. For ancient Mesopotamians, these tanners, despite their stench and the visceral nature of their work, were invaluable. They transformed death into utility, waste into wealth, and provided essential materials that clothed, protected, and equipped the very first civilizations. Their job, though bizarre and stomach-churning to you, was a profound act of practicality, making civilization possible, one processed hide at a time. You feel the rough hemp digging into your wrist, not as a decorative band, but a raw, chafing symbol of lost freedom. The air around you is thick with the dust of tireless labor, and the low murmur of commands issued in a language that holds no regard for your own will. Here, in ancient Mesopotamia, amidst the dawn of civilization, you witness a profound, often brutal, reality, the existence of individuals whose very lives had become a commodity, bought, sold, and put to work. This is the world of the enslaved, the indebted, the unfortunate whose personal identity had been stripped away, reduced to a tool for another's gain. You observe them in the fields, their backs bent under the relentless Mesopotamian sun, hands caked with mud from endless hours toiling in the vital irrigation ditches, ensuring the lifeblood of the city flowed freely. Or perhaps you see them in the sprawling kitchens of a wealthy household, performing monotonous, grueling domestic chores, their movements swift, fueled by fear of reprisal. Elsewhere, in the vast temple complexes, some might grind grain, fetch water, or tend to the sacred animals, their silent labor underpinning the grand rituals performed by the Gala priests. Cuneiform records reveal chillingly mundane sales contracts, detailing the transfer of human property, often for a specific term of years due to debt, or as chattel slavery. You read these tablets, their precise script outlining the terms of ownership, the price paid in barley or silver, the obligations of the new master. Hammurabi's laws, while offering certain protections for enslaved individuals, such as regulating their sale or allowing them to own property and even buy their freedom, simultaneously codified the very institution of slavery, stipulating punishments for runaways and defining their legal status. This wasn't chaos, it was a deeply ingrained, legally structured system. Their labor, though coerced and often dehumanizing, was absolutely essential to the sophisticated Mesopotamian economy. They were the muscle that powered agricultural output, the hands that maintained households, the unseen force that allowed the elite to pursue intellectual and spiritual endeavors. Without this readily available, cheap workforce, the rapid growth and complexity of these first cities would have been impossible. Their training was simply endurance and forced obedience, mastering whatever arduous task was set before them. Both men and women, adults and children, could fall into this dire status, their gender dictating the specific type of unfree labor they performed, from domestic service to heavy construction. What you witness is a stark reminder of the ultimate price of human vulnerability, the chilling reality of when a person becomes a commodity. It forces you to confront the unsettling truth that the magnificence of early civilization, the very foundations of laws and urban life, were often built on profound human suffering. It reveals the dark side of essential labor, showing you how easily the line between necessity and dehumanization could be crossed, leaving a lasting, indelible mark on the human story. You lift the small, glistening morsel to your lips, the scent of spiced roasted goat, a rich, savory promise. The air in the royal dining chamber, usually thick with the murmur of courtiers, is hushed with an almost imperceptible tension. Your gaze shifts, not to the king feasting at the head of the table, but to a figure standing silently beside him. This individual, often humble in appearance, lifts a similar dish, takes a deliberate bite, and waits. Their face is a mask of practiced neutrality, but in their eyes, you glimpse the chilling, ever-present spectre of fear. This is the royal provision tester, a job whose very existence speaks to the perilous nature of ancient power and the lingering fear in every delicious bite. You watch as the tester chews slowly, deliberately, their senses on high alert. You can almost taste the food with them, imagining the subtle shift in flavour, the strange bitterness that would signal instant doom. For the kings of Sumer, Akkad, Babylon and Assyria, surrounded by rivals and plots, the threat of poisoning was a grim reality. Meals, a symbol of hospitality and power, could also be a deadly trap. Therefore, this individual, a trusted servant, bore the ultimate responsibility to taste every dish, every sip, before it reached the royal palate. While explicit cuneiform tablets rarely document the exact title poison taster for this early period, historical accounts and the harsh realities of ancient royal courts across the Near East strongly suggest such roles were essential. The meticulous record-keeping of royal provisions and the constant vigilance around powerful figures underscore the pervasive fear of assassination. Archaeological finds in palace storerooms show complex systems for food preparation and storage, implying strict control and oversight. The tester's compensation, though not necessarily in lavish wealth, would have been significant. Assured sustenance, shelter, and perhaps status born of their proximity and undeniable importance to the ruler's very survival. Their training was less about formal education and more about an unflinching loyalty, a keen sense of taste and smell, and a grim acceptance of extreme daily risk. This was almost exclusively a male role, requiring unwavering trustworthiness in a position that demanded quiet sacrifice for the good of the state. What you witness is a profound commentary on the cost of power in the ancient world. The stability of a kingdom, the continuity of its rule, could hinge on the healthy digestion of one man, protected by the willing, terrifying gamble of another. This seemingly bizarre job, tasting food meant for someone else, was a cornerstone of political security, transforming a delicious bite into a potential instrument of terror or a symbol of continued rule. It forces you to realize that even amidst the grandeur of civilization, the most primal fears often dictate the most essential and dangerous forms of human work. You feel the oppressive, almost suffocating weight of luxury in the air around you, a stark contrast to the stark fear that permeates this royal dining hall. Golden platters gleam under the lamplight, heaped with exotic roasted meats and sweet, fragrant fruits. The rich scent of spiced wine and burning incense masks, but cannot entirely erase the subtle paranoia that hangs heavy like the draperies. Your gaze, however, bypasses the opulent feast spread before the king and settles on a figure standing with unnerving stillness at his side, the royal provision tester. You watch as the king gestures, a flick of his wrist. Immediately, the tester moves. Their hand, steady despite the immense stakes, takes a small portion of a stew, rich with herbs, then a piece of tender fowl. They lift the food to their lips, a moment of profound, terrifying silence descending upon the table, broken only by the faint clinking of distant cutlery. You instinctively hold your breath with them. Every chew, every swallow is deliberate, agonizingly slow. You can almost feel the texture on their tongue. Search with them for any metallic tang, any unusual bitterness that would signal the sudden onset of convulsions, paralysis, or death. The seconds stretch into an eternity. The king watches, impassive, his own hunger held at bay by the chilling necessity of this ritual. Only after a prescribed, agonizing interval, when no ill effect manifests on the tester's face, does the king finally reach for his own portion. The relief, when it comes, is a subtle tremor in the air, an unspoken exhaling from everyone present. This isn't just about the king's personal safety, it's about the very stability of the realm. Cuneiform records of royal administration, though not always detailing the grim specifics, inherently underscore the constant vigilance against plots and assassinations that necessitated such a role. The continued rule, the peace of the land, hinges on the health of this one man, safeguarded by the potential sacrifice of another. This role, primarily performed by a male trusted servant, demanded absolute unshakable loyalty and an unflinching acceptance of perpetual risk. Their training was a daily confrontation with mortality, a honed awareness of taste and physical sensation, knowing that any slip could mean their own agonizing end. Their compensation, while perhaps not princely, guaranteed their sustenance, a roof over their head, and a unique, if terrifying, proximity to power. What you witness is more than just a job. It's a living testament to the brutal realities of power in ancient Mesopotamia, where rivals were ruthless and a meal could be a battlefield. It reminds you that the foundations of civilization, even in their most glorious expressions, were often underwritten by desperate measures and silent, daily acts of extreme personal risk. The grandeur of the palace cannot hide the chilling truth. Every delicious bite carries the lingering shadow of poison, and one person's life is constantly balanced against the life of an empire. You feel it before you see it, an overwhelming acrid stench that assaults your nostrils, a pungent mix of stale ammonia and something deeply organic, almost fecal. It's a smell that makes your stomach clench, a cloying cloud that seems to cling to the very air. You find yourself in a bustling, yet oddly isolated corner of an ancient Mesopotamian city, and before you, a scene unfolds that utterly defies your modern sensibilities. This is the workshop of the fuller. You watch, perhaps with a slight grimace, as figures, often bare-legged and muscular, stand hip-deep in large sunken vats. Within these vats, piles of raw wool and linen fabric soak in a murky brownish liquid. Then, with a rhythmic, almost trance-like motion, they begin to stomp. You hear the wet, squelching sound as their feet churn the fabric through the revolting solution, the splashes sending droplets dangerously close. This isn't just dirty water. Archaeological evidence shows these workshops featured urine collection vats, and the liquid stewing the fabrics is indeed human urine, often mixed with animal feces for added potency. To your modern mind, this is profoundly disgusting, an unthinkable act of sanitation. But for them, this was advanced chemistry. The ammonia in urine was, quite simply, the best cleaning agent available in the ancient world. Without modern soaps or harsh chemicals, this natural detergent broke down the grease and grime in raw fibres, preparing them for weaving or further finishing. The fullers weren't outcasts or pariahs. They were highly skilled professionals. Cuneiform records document their occupation, often listing them among well-compensated tradesmen, earning substantial wages far exceeding basic labourers. They were indispensable to a society that needed clean textiles for clothing, sails, and a myriad of other uses. Their training was practical and intense, learning the precise proportions, the ideal soaking times, the proper stomping techniques to cleanse the cloth without damaging the fibres. This was physical work, certainly, but it demanded an expertise that made them respected and necessary. Their very existence reminds you that cleanliness is a culturally defined concept, and disgusting is often just unfamiliar. For ancient Mesopotamians, these acrid fumes and stomping feet weren't bizarre. They were the everyday reality of a vital, essential industry, literally weaving cleanliness into the fabric of their burgeoning civilization. You feel the sting of the acrid ammonia in your eyes, a harsh, chemical scent that permeates the very air in this ancient laundry. The rhythmic, squelching sound of bare feet stomping in liquid is a constant, almost hypnotic backdrop to the scene. You stand within the fuller's workshop, a place that, despite its crucial function, would be instantly repulsive to your modern senses. Here, the raw, uncleaned wool and linen of Mesopotamia's citizens, even its nobility, undergoes a transformation that relies on substances you'd never dream of using. You watch as large, heavy bundles of fabric are dragged from the murky, foul-smelling vats, where they have been soaking in human urine and animal feces. The liquid drips, thick and odious from the fibres. The fullers, their legs strong and scarred, their faces often streaked with sweat and grime, then begin the meticulous process of rinsing. You hear the slosh and swirl as the fabric is repeatedly plunged into cleaner water, perhaps from a nearby well or canal, slowly washing away the concentrated stench and the last clinging particles of filth. This rinsing stage is almost as labour-intensive as the initial cleaning, essential to ensure the textiles are truly purified. Next, you observe them carefully spreading the damp, now less offensive fabric on sun-drenched drying racks. As the Mesopotamian sun beats down, you can almost see the remaining impurities evaporating, leaving behind a cleaner, softer, and surprisingly vibrant cloth. For the wealthy, this might be fine linen for tunics. For the common person, rougher wool for cloaks. Regardless of its origin, the fuller's expert touch was what transformed raw, dirty fibres into usable textiles. Archaeological findings clearly show these workshops with their characteristic vats and drying areas, confirming the scale of this essential industry. Cuneiform records consistently highlight the importance of fullers, listing them among well-compensated craftsmen. Their wages were substantial, often exceeding those of basic labourers. They weren't viewed as unclean outcasts, but as vital professionals whose knowledge of natural chemistry, understanding that urine's ammonia content made it the most effective ancient detergent, was irreplaceable. Their long hours of strenuous, often unpleasant work, bleaching the filth from a noble's linen or a shepherd's wool, contributed directly to the health, comfort, and economy of the entire society. What you witness is a powerful demonstration of necessity shaping ingenuity. In a world devoid of modern cleaning agents, the Mesopotamians adapted, finding practical solutions even in the most unexpected and, to you, disgusting places. Their practicality, driven by the need for clean textiles, redefined what constituted a respected profession. It makes you realize that true innovation often arises from fundamental problems, and that the foundations of civilization are often built upon the tireless, often gritty, efforts of those whose work directly confronted the very raw, unfiltered realities of ancient life. You feel a sudden, exhilarating gust of wind whip around you, tugging at your clothes, carrying the dry, earthy scent of the plain far below. Your head spins, not just from the exertion of the climb, but from the dizzying height. You stand atop a colossal ziggurat, its sun-baked bricks a testament to immense human labour, rising like a man-made mountain toward the vast, open Mesopotamian sky. This isn't just a monument, it's a sacred observatory, a direct conduit to the heavens, and here you witness a profound, specialized profession, the celestial diviner, a branch of the Baru priests. You watch a figure cloaked against the constant wind, their gaze not fixed on the city below, but meticulously scanning the boundless expanse above. Their eyes, sharp and practiced, track the slow arc of planets, the shifting patterns of stars, the subtle dance of clouds. For the Mesopotamians, the cosmos was a living, breathing tablet inscribed with divine will. Every celestial event, Every change in the weather, even the direction of the wind from the gods, carried omens that could foretell peace or war, famine or prosperity. This diviner's task was to read these celestial signs, to interpret the silent pronouncements of the heavens. You hear the faint, almost imperceptible scratching of a stylus on clay. Cuneiform records document extensive astronomical observations, vast catalogues of omens derived from the sky, meticulously compiled over centuries. These tablets, often found in temple archives, demonstrate a sophisticated, long-term scientific endeavour intertwined with deep religious belief. Kings would certainly not embark on a major military campaign or even begin a significant building project without first consulting these highly specialized celestial experts. Their interpretations, carefully recorded, shaped state policy and influenced the very rhythm of royal life. The training required for such a position was exceptionally rigorous. Imagine years of patient, nocturnal observation, memorizing complex star charts, understanding the intricate cycles of planets, and mastering the vast written tradition of celestial omen interpretation. This demanded not only keen observational skills but also high literacy, a rare and deeply valued attribute. These individuals were intellectual elites, considered essential advisors to the most powerful rulers, holding immense social status and often receiving substantial payment in return for their insights into the divine will. What you feel, standing at this immense height, with the wind carrying ancient whispers, is a profound sense of humanity's earliest attempts to understand its place in the universe. This isn't mere stargazing, it's a critical form of political intelligence, a desperate search for order in a world perceived as constantly swayed by divine forces. This bizarre profession, blending science and spirituality atop a man-made peak, reminds you how intrinsically linked the human quest for knowledge and the yearning for divine connection truly were, literally using the heights of earth to glean whispers from the heavens. You feel the crisp, biting air whip around you at this incredible altitude, a stark contrast to the thick, dusty heat of the city sprawling far below. The vast, inky blackness of the Mesopotamian night sky stretches above, a canvas ablaze with a million distant pinpricks of light. You stand beside a figure cloaked against the relentless wind atop the immense ziggurat, its sun-baked bricks absorbing the day's heat and now radiating a faint warmth. This is the celestial diviner, a Baru priest whose life is spent deciphering the silent, profound language of the cosmos, and in this solitude you feel the profound loneliness of being closest to heaven. You watch their eyes, sharp and unwavering, scanning the heavens with a terrifying intensity. They track the familiar constellations, the wandering paths of planets, the sudden flash of a meteor. Unlike the bustling marketplace or the communal temple, this perch atop the world is one of profound isolation. You hear no human chatter, only the ceaseless whisper of the wind, carrying the weight of the city's hopes and fears up to this solitary height. For the Mesopotamians, the movements in the sky were direct messages from the gods, prophecies of unparalleled significance that could dictate the fate of empires. This diviner's sacred duty is to translate these cosmic pronouncements for a world desperate for divine guidance. The weight of this responsibility feels crushing even to you. Imagine knowing that a subtle shift in the star's path, an unexpected lunar eclipse, or a strange atmospheric phenomenon, as recorded in cuneiform omen catalogues, could decide a king's military campaign, a crucial harvest, or the very health of the royal family. Cuneiform records document these celestial observations spanning centuries, revealing not superstition, but a rigorous, systematic study of the heavens, meticulously compiled and interpreted by these intellectual elites. Their advice, carefully gleaned from temple archives brimming with astronomical tables and omen series, directly influenced state policy. Their training was a solitary, lifelong pursuit. Picture years spent in quiet, lamplit chambers, poring over complex tablets, memorizing star positions, understanding intricate mathematical cycles, and mastering the vast written tradition of celestial interpretation. Then, countless nights like this, ascending the monumental ziggurat, eyes fixed upwards, observing in isolation. This constant intellectual and spiritual vigil set them apart. While their social status was undeniably high, respected advisors to kings, their lives were often defined by this profound separation, a constant mediation between the silent, infinite heavens and the clamoring, finite world of humanity. They were figures of immense power, but also of immense personal solitude. What you feel now, the cold wind and the vast, indifferent expanse of the night sky, embodies the unique burden of their profession. It reminds you that some of the most essential tasks in civilization, those that bridge the human and the divine, demand not just skill and intellect, but a deep, often solitary, personal sacrifice. Their job, though bizarre in its blend of science and ritual, was a profoundly necessary endeavor, teaching you that the quest for knowledge, especially knowledge of the divine, can lead to the highest echelons of power, but often also to the deepest realms of isolation. You feel the sudden, biting cold of an ancient, sealed space. The air is thick with dust, heavy with an almost palpable stillness, a silence that seems to press in on your ears. You breathe deeply, detecting faint scents of dry earth, decaying linen and something else, a subtle, almost sweet, mineral tang. You are in a silent tomb, a resting place for the long-departed of ancient Mesopotamia. And then, a sound slices through the profound quiet, a dry, unsettling crack. Your eyes dart to the source. Before you, a figure, clad in simple somber robes, kneels over a collection of human bones. This isn't a grave robber. This is a highly specialized priest, perhaps a variant of the Baru diviner or an Ashipu incantation priest, whose expertise extends to the sacred, yet often disturbing realm of the deceased. Their hands, nimble and precise, delicately prod and arrange the ancient remains. The cracking sound you heard was the subtle shift of an old bone, perhaps a rib or a vertebra, under their careful examination. For the Mesopotamians, the dead were not simply gone. Ancestors held potent sway, capable of influencing the living, granting blessings or inflicting curses. A troubling death, a lingering illness, or a period of misfortune might necessitate a journey to the tomb, not to disturb the dead out of disrespect, but to seek answers, protection, or solace from them. You watch the priest's face, a mask of intense concentration, as they scrutinize the individual bones, perhaps looking for anomalies, signs of unquiet spirits, or even symbolic messages left in the skeletal arrangement. Cuneiform records, although scarce on explicit bone divination manuals compared to liver omens, strongly imply complex rituals involving ancestral veneration and the consultation of the deceased. Temple archives contain texts detailing purification rites for tombs and spells to appease angered spirits, underscoring the spiritual importance of the dead. This priest's training was immense, a deep knowledge of human anatomy, as it was understood then, a mastery of intricate funeral rites, and an encyclopedic command of oral and written traditions concerning the underworld and ancestor veneration. This demanded literacy, discipline, and a profound understanding of their society's deepest beliefs about life and death. This was a respected, albeit often feared, profession. They navigated the terrifying threshold between the living and the dead, providing a crucial bridge for families seeking closure, or for rulers wanting to ensure the peace of the royal ancestors. Their high status was earned through their unique knowledge and their willingness to confront the unknown, to enter these silent, dust-filled chambers and decipher the whispers held within ancient bones. What you witness now, the sound of cracking bone in the profound stillness of a tomb, reveals a profound cultural context. Death was not an end, but a continuation, requiring specialist mediators. Your own revulsion to disturbing human remains quickly gives way to an understanding of how deeply essential this seemingly bizarre role was for an ancient civilization grappling with mortality, ancestry, and the unseen forces that shaped their world. It teaches you that even in the most unsettling corners of human experience, dedicated professionals rise to provide answers, however strange their methods. You feel the oppressive, damp chill of subterranean darkness, tasting dust and something ancient, metallic in the air. The only sound, sharp and illicit, is the muffled scrape of a rough tool against hardened earth, and the soft clink of pottery. You are deep inside a tomb, a resting place meant for eternal slumber, but this time the purpose is far from pious. You crouch low, catching the flickering glow of a hidden torch, illuminating the hunched back of a figure feverishly working. This is the grave robber, a phantom of the night, driven by a desire for a moment of wealth, stealing eternity in the process. You watch their hands, calloused and quick, as they sift through layers of earth and detritus. Bypassing the bones, you saw a priest reverently examine in another chamber. Their gaze is fixed on glinting metal, on the telltale sheen of polished stone or baked clay. You can almost feel the surge of adrenaline, the desperate hope that drives this sacrilegious act. For the Mesopotamians, death was a journey, and grave goods, jewelry, tools, offerings were essential for navigating the afterlife, making tombs rich targets for those willing to defy both divine wrath and human law. As they uncover a small, intricately carved amulet, perhaps a piece of lapis lazuli, you hear their sharp intake of breath. This stolen trinket, meant to protect the deceased, will now be melted down or pawned in some shadowy corner of the city. While specific cuneiform laws against grave robbing are less explicit than those against general theft, the severity of Hammurabi's laws regarding property theft, combined with powerful curses inscribed on royal tombs warning against disturbance, underscore the profound taboo being violated. Archaeological excavations of countless Mesopotamian burial sites reveal the grim reality of this illicit trade. Many tombs, even royal ones, were plundered, their contents scattered, their sacred purpose utterly disregarded. The grave robbers' training wasn't formal or revered. It was a brutal education in stealth, cunning, and the intricate architecture of ancient tombs. They learned to identify promising sites, to navigate treacherous tunnels, to bypass rudimentary traps, and to move swiftly and silently under the cover of darkness. This was a profession born of desperation, a brutal gamble against the fearsome power of angered spirits and the swift, brutal justice of men. Compensation, if successful, was a fleeting moment of illicit wealth, exchanged for the constant gnawing fear of discovery and the profound societal excommunication that would follow. It was a trade predominantly undertaken by men, often those existing at the fringes of society, driven by hunger or greed. What you witness is a stark and unsettling contrast to the sacred reverence for the dead shown by priests. It highlights the darker side of human nature, where even the sanctity of eternal rest could be violated for material gain. This grim occupation reminds you that while civilizations build grand temples and meticulous laws, there will always be those who, driven by primal needs or desires, operate in the shadows, defying taboos, willing to risk everything, even their soul, for a moment of fleeting wealth. It teaches you that the foundations of human society are not just built on order, but also on the constant struggle against the disorder that lurks just beneath the surface, even within its most sacred spaces. You feel the oppressive silence in the king's private chamber, a stillness so profound it seems to absorb even the flickering light of the oil lamps. The air is heavy with the faint scent of anxious sweat and aged papyrus, a palpable tension clinging to every shadow. Your gaze is fixed on the monarch, his regal posture slumped, his face pale and drawn, clearly disturbed. He has just awoken from a nightmare, and the weight of his troubled sleep now rests heavily on the entire kingdom. Beside him stands the Sha'ilu, the dream interpreter, an official government position of immense gravity. You watch as this specialist, clad in simple, unassuming robes, listens intently, his expression one of solemn concentration, his eyes betraying no personal emotion, only a profound intellectual engagement. The king recounts his fragmented vision, a towering wave engulfing the city, a serpent whispering dark prophecies, an eagle snatching his crown. To your modern mind, these might be mere products of an overactive subconscious. But here, in ancient Mesopotamia, these dreams are perceived as direct messages from the gods, omens that could foretell disaster or divine favor, capable of swaying state policy and the fate of thousands. You observe the interpreter's subtle gestures, his occasional nod, not of agreement, but of categorization. This isn't wild guesswork. You know from countless archaeological findings that these experts meticulously compiled and studied vast dream catalogues, ancient manuals, meticulously listing symbols and their established meanings. Cuneiform records document these extensive omen series, providing a systematic, codified framework for deciphering the murky logic of the divine. Each element of the king's nightmare, the wave, the serpent, the eagle, holds a specific, learned interpretation, a piece of a celestial puzzle. The stakes are terrifyingly high. The king wouldn't make major decisions, whether to embark on a military campaign, initiate a trade agreement, or declare a new law, without first consulting these dream experts. Their interpretations directly influenced policy, positioning them as crucial advisors, not merely superstitious seers. Their formidable training involved years of dedicated study, not just of dream catalogues, but also astronomical omens and other forms of divination, making them intellectual elites whose literacy and specialized knowledge were invaluable. They are the conduits between the terrestrial and the divine, tasked with bringing clarity to chaos. As the king finishes his troubled recounting, you feel the chamber's silence return, pregnant with unspoken questions. The Sha'ilu stands poised, ready to unravel the tangled threads of the royal nightmare, to translate the god's cryptic warnings. His imminent interpretation holds the power to shape the future, to either calm a king's fear or confirm his darkest premonitions. It makes you realize how utterly reliant ancient power was on the unseen, how deeply interwoven the spiritual and the political truly were, and how a single man's restless sleep could set the course for an entire civilization. You feel the heavy, perfumed air in the king's private chamber, a stillness so profound it seems to absorb even the flickering light of the oil lamps. A palpable residue of anxiety clings to every shadow, a testament to the monarch's disturbed sleep. The king, his regal composure momentarily shattered, leans forward, his gaze fixed on the Sha'ilu, the dream interpreter. Now the weighty burden shifts from the monarch's troubled unconscious to this specialist's formidable intellect. You watch as the Sha'ilu begins their meticulous process. Their eyes, which just moments ago were solemnly attentive to the king's whispered recounting of towering waves engulfing the city, of a serpent whispering dark prophecies, now shift inward. You sense a silent, intricate sorting of symbols, a methodical cross-referencing against centuries of accumulated wisdom. This isn't random guesswork, you realize. Cuneiform records document vast, detailed dream catalogues, ancient manuals meticulously listing every symbol, every recurring motif, every bizarre permutation of the nocturnal mind, and assigning it a specific, codified meaning. Archaeological digs have unearthed these very tablets, revealing a scholarly tradition of omen interpretation as rigorous as any early science. The Sha'ilu's fingers, perhaps stained faintly with ink from endless hours of study, might trace a pattern in the air, connecting the disparate elements of the king's nightmare. The towering wave from their catalogue signifies upheaval or a looming invasion. The whispering serpent points to treachery within the court. The eagle snatching the crown is a stark warning of a challenge to royal authority. They are not inventing, they are translating, weaving prophecy from the ephemeral threads of sleep, constructing a coherent narrative from the subconscious signals believed to be sent directly from the gods. This profound intellectual labour was what made the Sha'ilu an official government position, a crucial advisor without whom kings wouldn't dare make major decisions. Their work was, in essence, a sophisticated form of political intelligence, a direct pipeline to divine will that shaped state policy and the very destiny of the kingdom. The years of apprenticeship to become such a master were formidable, demanding rare literacy and an encyclopedic memory. They studied not just dreams, but astronomical omens, liver divinations, and other mystical sciences, creating a comprehensive network of knowledge designed to grasp every nuance of the unpredictable universe. Their high status, their constant presence near the throne, their ability to influence the most powerful figures all attest to the immense value placed on their unique expertise. You understand now that even in the most fleeting, ephemeral realm of dreams, ancient Mesopotamians found a tangible, practical means to navigate their world. This seemingly bizarre profession, decoding the murky logic of a king's nightmare, transformed the subconscious into the strategic, proving that for them, dreams were not just personal experiences, but vital messages that literally steered the course of civilization. You feel the sharp, acrid scent of freshly cut timber mingle with the dry, choking dust of the siege camp. The very air vibrates with a low, insistent hum, the rhythmic thud of heavy hammers, the screech of bronze saws biting into thick logs, and the strained grunts of men. Your muscles already ache with an exhaustion that seems to seep into your very bones, a constant reminder of the relentless labour. You stand amidst a sprawling, chaotic scene, a landscape of raw wood and grim determination, as you help construct one of ancient Mesopotamia's most terrifying and ingenious instruments of war, the siege tower. You grasp the coarse, splintering rope, feeling the bite of its fibres against your calloused palms as you haul a massive timber into position. The sheer weight threatens to pull you backward, demanding every ounce of your strength. Around you, dozens of other figures, their faces streaked with sweat and grime, work in a feverish frenzy. You hear the deafening crack as a beam settles into place, a sound that resonates through your chest, followed by the deep, resonant groan of the entire immense wooden structure as it slowly, painstakingly rises towards the enemy city's formidable walls. You taste the sawdust that clings to the air, feel the sharp jabs of splinters, and sense the constant, unseen tension of working under the hostile gaze of archers on the ramparts, whose arrows could, at any moment, end your life. This is military engineering at its most brutal and direct, often carried out under fire. For the kings of Assyria and Babylon, these siege engines were not merely tools of destruction. They were the embodiment of their imperial ambition, the keys to unlocking seemingly impenetrable cities. Without them, a protracted siege could last for years, bleeding resources and morale, ultimately dooming a campaign. Therefore, the skilled carpenters and engineers who designed and built these colossal mobile structures were absolutely essential. A strange yet vital profession where meticulous craft met the grim realities of warfare. Archaeological evidence, from excavated siege ramps to vivid depictions on colossal palace reliefs, reveals the immense scale and complexity of these war machines. Cuneiform records sometimes detail the provisioning for such campaigns, indirectly confirming the immense logistical effort, including the highly specialized labor, required. The training for these master builders was years of harsh, practical apprenticeship, a brutal education in structural integrity, the properties of different types of wood, the physics of immense weight distribution, and the grim calculus of siege warfare. They needed to quickly, efficiently, and durably construct structures under extreme pressure and immediate danger, often adapting on the fly to unpredictable battlefield conditions. Their status, while not that of a general, was one of indispensable expertise. They were the anonymous architects of conquest, turning raw timber and human sweat into the engines of empire. This dangerous work was almost exclusively a male domain, demanding immense physical strength and courage. This visceral experience, the splintering of wood, the groaning of timbers, the constant threat from above, reminds you of the immense human cost and ingenious problem-solving woven into the fabric of ancient warfare. What might seem like a simple construction job to a modern eye was, in this context, a strange, high-stakes art, where every joint, every beam, every plank could mean the difference between victory and catastrophic defeat. It teaches you that even in the most brutal pursuits, specialized skills and sheer, unyielding effort are the true architects of history, literally building the mechanisms that shape the ancient world. You feel the ground tremble beneath your feet, a low, ominous vibration that travels through the compacted earth. The acrid scent of raw timber and the metallic tang of sweat still cling to the air, but now, overriding the sounds of construction, you hear a new, terrifying symphony. The rhythmic thud of a colossal battering ram against stone, and the deep, straining groan of the massive siege tower you witnessed being built, slowly, inexorably, inching closer to the formidable city walls. You realize this isn't just about building, it's about breaking. Your eyes sweep across the organized chaos of the Assyrian siege lines. Here, amidst the clamor of war, you focus on a figure, not a warrior in shining armor, but a man hunched over a crude map, scratched into the dust, occasionally gesturing with a reed stick towards the towering wooden edifice. This is the siege engineer, or perhaps a high-ranking military strategist, a master of the calculated geometry of total war. Their role is to orchestrate this immense, destructive ballet, to understand the physics of collapse, the weaknesses in an enemy's defenses, and the precise application of overwhelming force. You can almost feel the mental strain, the complex calculations occurring in their mind. How much weight can the tower bear? What angle of approach will minimize exposure to enemy arrows? Where is the optimal point for the ram to strike to shatter the wall's integrity? Cuneiform records, particularly from Assyrian palace reliefs, vividly depict these siege engines, showcasing not only their brutal effectiveness, but also the sophisticated military planning behind them. While direct engineering manuals are rare for this period, the existence of such complex machines implies a profound, accumulated knowledge of mechanics, geometry, and logistics, carefully guarded and passed down. For the expansionist kings of Mesopotamia, particularly the Assyrians, the ability to conquer heavily fortified cities was paramount to empire building. These siege engineers, therefore, were not just craftsmen. They were strategic geniuses, their expertise as crucial as any generals. Without their precise calculations and tactical understanding, the immense resources poured into these campaigns would be wasted, and the very ambition of empire would crumble before impregnable walls. They held a high, if unsung, status, advising kings on the most devastating paths to victory. Their training was a blend of battlefield experience and deep, theoretical study, understanding the tensile strength of wood, the dynamics of leverage, the best ways to undermine earthen ramparts. This was a profession demanding a sharp intellect and a pragmatic understanding of applied physics, often under the most intense and dangerous conditions. This strategic mastery, focused on the art of destruction, was almost exclusively a male domain. What you witness, the deliberate, controlled violence of the siege, reveals the profound intersection of specialized knowledge and the grim necessities of ancient power. This isn't random brutality. It is the calculated geometry of total war, orchestrated by minds that transformed raw materials and human brawn into instruments of conquest. It makes you realize that even the most destructive acts in history are often born from meticulous planning and specialized expertise, reminding you that human ingenuity, in all its forms, has always been a powerful and sometimes terrifying force in shaping the world.